I've said it before, I've been coaching for a long time and running for a long time, over 30 years in fact, and coached at all levels. One thing I've seen over the years is people give up far too easily, and the reasons that they generally give up is because they're not seeing progress. But the trouble is they're only measuring progress, in running I'm talking, by one metric, and that's run time or speed that they're actually running. And actually, unless you're doing a race or a time trial over the exact same course, under the exact same conditions, you'll never really get a true account of your fitness just by looking at your watch or your finish time. Of course, it's great to get a PB, but then that PB isn't necessarily a true reflection of your progress. So instead of looking at your watch or your finish times or thinking about your speed all the time, think about a few other things, starting with, when you're running, how that run actually feels. Do you feel better than you did a few weeks ago? Does your breathing feel a little bit more in control? What about your legs? Are they turning over a little bit easier than they used to? You could even think about, is it mentally easier to get your trainers on, get your kit on, and get out the door and go for a run? And all of these simple little things that you didn't necessarily think about are actually signs that you are getting better or you're improving. Then you can think about the run itself. Mechanically, are you moving better? If you run walk, do you walk less? What about if you're one of those people that struggle with a consistent pace and you go fast and you slow down? Do you slow down less? And then with that in mind, what about your pace? Is that more consistent than it used to be? Do you feel more relaxed in your upper body, your shoulders, your hips, your glutes, or just overall the pace? Can you hold an easier pace for a longer period without it turning into what feels like a slog? Think about that incline that always gets you. Does it feel a little bit easier now than it did a few weeks ago? And all of these things are progress markers. Of course, we can use heart rate. As I've said before, I don't really like relying on heart rate because there's just way too many outside factors that can influence it. Heat, fatigue, stress, sleep, nutrition, hydration, to name but a few. All of these things can impact your heart rate before you've even started running. One metric I actually find very useful is recovery. How long after a specific training run does it take for your heart rate to come back to below 100 beats per minute, for example? And if that's improving, it's another good sign that your fitness and your running in turn is also improving. So in future, when you're thinking about progress, don't just fixate or rely on pace. Think, how do I feel? How is my running gait or my running style? What about my cadence? How many steps per minute am I taking? My breathing, how does that feel? How relaxed do I feel when I'm running? And then how quickly afterwards does my heart rate start to come back down? And I would say overall, all of these are a much better reflection of your progress than simply looking at a number or a speed on your watch. Of course, your pace has its place, but it should just be one piece of a big puzzle, not the only piece. So stop judging every run by the speed that you run it, because it's probably the last thing that I as a coach would use to decide whether or not my clients are making progress. And it's definitely not the metric I would use to decide whether you're becoming a better runner.